T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All three engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Welcome to Citizens of Tech, your dose of science, gaming, and general nerdery. Ethan Banks and Eric Sutphin are your hosts, and you can find all of our shows at citizensoftech.com. In today's show, a new sci-fi virtual world, traveling to Alpha Centauri, virtual reality, thinking about thinking, and more love for Tidal. Ooh, Eric, you found something. No Man's Sky. What is that all about?
Yeah, so this is a science fiction game. This is, quote, according to the website, a science fiction game set in an infinite, procedurally generated galaxy.
In other words, if you start flying to a part of the universe that there isn't anything, it's going to make something up?
Yes, within a certain scope. So it's not really infinite. It's almost infinite, except you can't really do almost infinite, so now we're regressing. We'll let the marketing folks sort it out, but it's just really freaking big, basically. Yeah, so there will be just tons and tons to explore.
So, but in a universe that's that large, I mean, in theory, you'd never find anyone unless it was very heavily populated. So what's the big idea here?
Okay, so the big idea is this is an open world sci-fi. Think Minecraft with jetpacks, spaceships, and a seemingly infinite world. I'm going to throw seemingly out there.
Minecraft, so like I'm mining things?
Yeah, resource gathering, exploration, combat with NPCs, non-player characters. Unsure at this point if there will be combat with players, but...
So did you get the vibe it was more sim or more gaming, blowing things up?
It's a little bit of both. For anyone that's familiar with the game mechanics of Grand Theft Auto, you have a heat meter, which is you do bad things and the heat comes down on you, right? Like you get these stars, I think, in Grand Theft Auto. I'm kind of ignorant, honestly, and those deteriorate over time if you don't do bad things. Well, this sort of has that mechanic. So you can go to a planet and there can be flora and fauna there, and if you start shooting up the native fauna, there are little enforcer bots that might fly around and attack you or whatever.
Okay, so there's interactivity. You said non-player combatants, so something automated, some AI, but then I can also deal with real people, yeah?
Yeah, to some degree. Apparently, you have to think of this as a single-player game where you could hypothetically meet people, but the scope of this universe is such that that's extremely unlikely unless you actually coordinate doing so.
Okay.
Okay. Because if you think about, let's say we're traveling through the Milky Way, what are the chances we're going to meet someone? Well, let's look at it from the standpoint of reality. We haven't met anyone yet.
It goes back to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, right? If you look into the total perspective vortex, the universe is so mind-bogglingly, unbelievably huge that when you gain the perspective of just how small you are in it, unless you're Zaphod Beeblebrox, then yeah. Okay, so the point of this is to have a great big universe. You can do other stuff. It's going to be hard for me to find your planet where you're mining and building and blow it up, which take some of the fun out of it for me. But I want to go back to something you said earlier. They described this as a procedurally generated game. What are we getting into here?
Yeah, so basically the entire universe is built off of a 64-bit seed number. And the company that's making this game, Hello Games, has estimated that with their 64-bit seed number, the virtual galaxy will include over 18 quintillion planets. 18 quintillion.
Okay, so you know how a lot of games that are like this, you want to go visit all the things, right? I got to go to this corner of the map. I got to see this. I got to unfog this part. Oh, I haven't been over there yet.
Yeah.
I don't have a spreadsheet big enough for 18 quintillion.
No. They estimate that 99.9% of planets will never be explored by anyone.
But it's going to maintain some sort of memory state? It's actually going to exist? Conceptually in the game?
The way the procedural generation works is because of the seed number, whether you're actually online or you're disconnected or what have you, the world will generate exactly the same no matter what your state is.
Okay, nerd. So, back when I was a young Commodore 64 BASIC programmer fascinated by text adventure games, and I was hacking around trying to make my own version of an Infocom game, I was trying to figure out, how do you take a room with an object in it and describe that object, because the object's going to have a whole bunch of characteristics. This is really hard. And what I come up with was, I'm going to assign a variable that's going to be a number, and that number, I'm going to treat it as binary, and inside that binary number, each bit is going to be an on-off switch that represents something. It's open, it's closed, it's whatever it is. And so this is really what they've done. They've taken a 64-bit number, created a planet out of it. They don't have to store art or a bunch of stuff necessarily. It's just the number with a bunch of bits in it that's a reference to some characteristics of the planet.
Correct. And then it's rendered on the fly exactly the same for everyone.
Huh.
It's super cool. It's sort of, I'm not going to say it's, the first of its kind or what have you, but it's incredibly original, and no one's really tried to pull it off at this scope and magnitude before.
So they're doing all this in the cloud?
Yeah, apparently. That's my understanding. I'm not super familiar with how they are, working the infrastructure or anything, but yeah, there's a relatively complex language system that the NPC characters will have available, and you can actually learn them and learn to communicate, and it's some pretty cool stuff here.
So are we making this up at this point, or is this actually like it's coming to market?
It is coming to market. It's supposed to release in early June at this point. It's available for pre-order already. I misspoke. It's the third week of June. It is $60, and you can pre-order it for PS4 or Windows. Apparently not for Xbox at this point, which is kind of surprising. But it is what it is. I am really looking forward to this one. This is the first game in a while that has really caught my attention. Just the sheer difference between this and pretty much everything else on the market right now.
The bold audacity of it.
How dare they?
Because you're going to be the first one to explore a quintillion planets.
All of them.
That's right.
Yes. All of them.
You seen Eric? I haven't seen him in days. He got that game, and he said, 1 million! I did 1 million! And that's the last thing we heard. Well, from gaming and in imaginary universes to our actual universe, the closest star system to us, Eric, I believe, is Alpha Centauri.
Yeah.
And I didn't look this up, but I think 4 light years away.
Sounds about right.
Lost track.
3 point something, 4 point something, yeah.
Long story short is, if we want to get there, we can't, with traditional rockets and liquid propellant and so on, actually get to a fast enough to actually get there in any meaningful amount of time.
Right.
So there is a new project here that is trying to sort out just how we might be able to do this and start to explore things that are really far away, like light years away. And that project is Breakthrough Starshot. So this is tied to Stephen Hawking and a number of other considerable big brain boxes in the science world. And the big idea behind Breakthrough Starshot is to take a spacecraft, something that would be very small, load it up with sensors, make a whole bunch of these things, because we're not building a rocket that costs hundreds of millions or billions of dollars. We're taking a teeny tiny thing that would cost maybe a smartphone size expense to build, and then ship them out to explore a whole bunch of things. Oh, we lost one. He got hit by a...
Who cares?
Whatever.
Right.
We'll send more. So that's the big idea. So obviously this is not a person. This is not a manned spacecraft, nor ever could it be. It's they're talking about chip-sized, gram-sized, very small ship to get this thing out there. Now, this is future thinking. I mean, this is something that is conceivable, realistic. We could pull this off, but there's still a lot of science and bits and bobs to overcome before we can do it. The general idea of how we'd propel this thing is via the craft itself would be equipped with a light sail, and there would be, the article is a little vague here, but I believe there's a ground-based laser array would shoot at the spacecraft's light sail in the 100 GW range. They didn't define what GW was. Is that
gigawatts?
That was my
I
guess.
believe, yeah.
A laser array shooting at it in the 100 gigawatt range and could accelerate that tiny little spacecraft to 20% the speed of light in minutes. And just at that speed, they're talking about getting to Pluto in about 3 days, wherever Pluto happens to be on its very eccentric orbit.
Yeah.
It's not even a planet anyway. Who cares about Pluto?
3 billion kilometers away. Right?
But the big idea is we could go to Alpha Centauri and then explore that area. What's there? What planets are there? What's around that star system, etc. And all of the other folks associated with Breakthrough Starshot believe that there's other things we would find along the way. Although going back to the total perspective vortex, and I do. Space is mind-bogglingly big, and what really is there between here and there? I don't know, and I don't know if we know.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, even at 20% the speed of light or 50% the speed of light, we're still talking about quite a long time before we would get any meaningful information about Alpha Centauri, at least.
Well, the implication was 20% the speed of light in a matter of minutes, but I believe they can get these little guys going a lot
faster than that. Okay.
Yes.
So what I'm thinking is, Alpha Centauri might be the final destination, but along the way, we may be able to get more information about what's just beyond the heliopause and what's between our solar system and the next system that we would cross or encroach upon. Pieces of information that we really don't know, and we're waiting for Voyager, the Voyager craft, to send back information about.
Well, it does say a lot about how we've miniaturized electronics. I mean, they're talking about this. They're terming it a nanocraft, and it would include cameras, photon thrusters, power supply, navigation, and communications equipment. Just wow!
In something like the size of a marble, or
well, again, chip-sized gram-scale wafer that would include all of this stuff.
Wow.
And power is still a thing because you've got to be able to get the data you're gathering and ship it back to Earth. So there is a power source required. We're not clear yet on exactly how the power would work out. And in fact, there's other technical hurdles to
sending
overcome.
and receiving command instructions and
right. All of that takes something, and there's 18 other specific technical hurdles that they've identified to make Breakthrough Starshot a reality. And by them, I mean the team of brain boxes that have conceived of this whole thing. But again, it doesn't seem insurmountable from the way it's described. And I think, to me, it's the nanocraft aspect of it that brings it all like, well, yeah, of course.
That makes sense.
Yeah, why wouldn't you do it that way?
Yeah.
Not trying to blast this huge payload off the ground, get it up through the atmosphere, and then try to accelerate it to some useful speed.
And care about necessarily the survival of, a person or a large, expensive device.
Send 50 of them into the asteroid belt. If only 10 come out, fine.
That's fine. We'll send more. Yeah.
Cool, So I'm just really fascinated by this idea and what it means for space exploration and what we can figure out. Part of it is Hubble and whatever the next big orbiting platform or ground-based. We can only see so much out of these telescopes, as amazing as they are.
Yep.
We lose a lot if you look at close-ups of certain star systems and we know there's a planet there because it's a little darker and it's on a regular pattern, so it must be an orbiting body. We're guessing at a lot of this stuff. Very educated, smart guesses, but, man, it's nothing like sending something there that can actually see and, with the right sensors measure in real time when you're right there and then ship that data back to Earth. So we really and truly know what's going on. To me, it seems like we're on the edge of the data that's going to allow us to come to some concrete understandings of things that we're doing our best with right now, but looking over long distances, we're struggling to really know.
Right. It's a lot of speculation that could potentially turn into, factual information that we can then draw conclusions from. Yeah.
Well, back from reality, hopeful reality, to virtual reality again, Eric. You found, let's see, the title of this is "It's Here and You Will Be Assimilated, the Content Creator's Hope."
Yeah, so found this on Gizmodo. This is a brand new Star Wars VR experience that put the author of the article on Tatooine from Star Wars. We've discussed VR headsets in the past a bit. Industrial Light and Magic, the folks behind Lucasfilm's special effects, have created a virtual Tatooine using the Unreal Engine 4, which we've also discussed a little bit here and there.
The Unreal Engine 4, it lives on.
Yeah, it keeps on
Boy, oh
trucking.
boy.
And the HTC Vive, which is HTC's VR headset. So basically, in this, you are on a mission to protect R2-D2, and you're holding a lightsaber, using it to defend the little droid against various attacks. And the creators seem to think that this is what the VR experience was made for.
Okay, so yes, if imagine you've got the lightsaber, and how often have you wanted to be the guy where the laser bolts are coming at you from the stormtroopers, and you can like use the lightsaber to go pew pew, and then blast the laser bolts back at them? Yeah, suck it, stormtrooper. Every
Waking moment.
So that's what this game allows you to do in part, was the way they described this after I read the article. Yeah, that does sound kind of cool.
Yeah, and if you look at the screenshots in the article, it's pretty convincing graphically. I mean, it's ILM doing this, so they don't do anything halfway. And it's interesting because I am awaiting the arrival of my Samsung Gear VR headset.
Oh, you went for it, huh?
I did. I actually upgraded to the Samsung S7 Edge, and it was fill out this form and send away. And
so this is the headset where you wear it, and then basically it's like a frame to tuck your phone into.
Pop your
so
phone
your
in.
phone's sitting at eyeball level,
and it has touch controls built into the side and all that. I actually used a coworker's. And now that I've used one and I see these screenshots of this Star Wars thing, the gears are turning in my head going, oh, this could really be cool. Because
gears turning in your head are Cantina Band, because you want to go and get... You want that blue chick with the long mouth and the red lips on the end to, like, sign your boob. That's what... Tell me I'm wrong.
Is that what I want?
It is.
Oh.
I can see it.
Now I know. Well, I will say that having used that, VR has certainly come a long way since the Nintendo Virtual Boy graced my retinas with 384 by 224 black and red multi-tone graphics back in 1995.
Oh,
and speaking of the Virtual Boy, as you may recall, we discussed Chip, the, quote, world's first $9 computer. And now they've released the Poculus, which is a $49 Virtual Boy emulator. So it's the Poculus and, the Oculus.
Yeah,
so,
I get it.
Except the difference between this and the Virtual Boy, which I still have my Virtual Boy, but the difference with this one is it actually fits on your face without, like, setting it on a table and then sticking your face into it. It actually will mount to your head. The Virtual Boy, you actually had to set on a table and look down into it because it was too big and heavy. So this one's actually portable. The primary use for it is for homebrew games, so indie developers can develop their own games for it, but I'm sure it's not hard to acquire copies of the official Nintendo carts, all 14 of them that were released in North America, or 19 if you go for the Japanese titles.
Oh, so there's actually not that many games that were ever made for Virtual Boy.
Oh, no, they only sold 770,000 Virtual Boys, and they only made, 19 games in Japan, 14 in North America. It was not exactly the success that they were hoping for. It causing headaches and all that probably didn't help, so...
Oh, well, thinking about thinking, Eric, you found this other interesting story on metacognition, and there are known unknowns and unknown unknowns, so how do we know what we don't know?
Yeah, found this via Ars Technica and then pulled some information from Wikipedia as well on metacognition. So animals such as chimpanzees, rhesus monkeys, dolphins, and even bees, to some extent, show evidence of metacognition, which is understanding that they don't know or don't understand something.
Oh, okay, so it's kind of self-awareness of ignorance.
Yeah, it's an awareness of your own ignorance of something, essentially. So researchers at a Paris university set up an experiment This was specifically targeted at toddlers, ages 19 to 21 months, and didn't require any speech or anything like that. Basically, they would show the toddler a toy prior to hiding it, and then they would wait 3 to 12 seconds until they were pretty sure that the child's mind had wandered a bit.
Doesn't take that long if you're a toddler. Doesn't take that long if you're an adult.
I'm
really.
sorry, what were we talking about?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who are you?
So then they would ask the child to point to where the toy is hidden. So they ran this with 80 children. They had 10 test runs, and there was a 50-50 split on being shown where it was hidden or not. So half the time they showed the kid where it was hidden, half the time they didn't. All children had a parent or guardian present, and that actually is a meaningful part of the experiment. Half of the guardians were instructed not to help the child. Half were told to help, but only if the child looked at them for help. So children with help available to them succeeded more, 66% success versus 56%, which is statistically significant.
Meaning the point of this here about in the context of metacognition is if the kid knows he doesn't know where the toy is hidden, he or she, he's going to look to the parent or guardian and going to go, I need help.
Yeah.
Proof that you're self-aware of your ignorance.
Exactly. Aha. And, some of the kids wouldn't ask for help. 14 of the children with help available did not use it, and the results suffered accordingly. So, some of them didn't ask for help, and either they didn't realize they didn't know where the thing was and they thought they knew, or...
So we don't actually know if they were ignorant of their own ignorance. Wow. Or just stubborn enough to not ask for help, which could be a personality
That's one
thing.
of the flaws in the study. And another flaw is that the children were actually taught that they could ask for help, which makes it hard to know if they would have spontaneously done so or not. But ultimately, the fact that they know when they don't know and then seek guidance or assistance is the key to the study. So, knowledge or ignorance of your own ignorance, essentially.
So so what does this tell us about intelligence generally? In other words, if we've proven metacognition, this self-awareness thing, where does this take us now? How do we use that understanding?
Yeah, so this is where artificial intelligence starts to be a factor in this discussion. Artificial intelligence and machine learning are, they're sort of separate things, but they're bleeding into each other at this point. Machines are getting pretty smart.
Well, the machine learning, which keeps showing up in information technology,
Yep.
given a set of data and the right mathematical algorithms to interpret that data, a machine can, quote unquote, learn. It's part pattern recognition, part historical aggregation of data that ends up with a predictive ability.
Yeah, Google's been feeding romance novels into its AI. Have you heard about this?
No, I have not heard about this.
To try to teach it the English language more natively, they're throwing romance novels at their AI so it can learn.
So the word bodice comes up frequently.
Yeah, heaving bosom, etc. So, and then the next big thing in AI and machine learning is neural networks and deep neural networks, right? So at what point does a program become self-aware or exhibit traits of metacognition? I think that's when we will have that aha moment, if that day ever comes, and go, oh, this is self-aware. It knows it doesn't know.
You can't, as a programmer, code for every situation.
Right.
You can't build a set of reactions for every given situation. That, if that's all you're doing, there's no self-awareness there. No matter how good you are, you're never going to be too good at the Turing test. You've got to have code that, in fact, reacts to unknowns.
And infers based on context and past knowledge and current situation and,
So we get learning, and then if we get there far enough, we get self-awareness. Right. Sentience.
Essentially, yeah. Yeah. So, Google's DeepMind AlphaGo was the thing that really was in my mind as I was reading this article. What with it beating, the Go masters, fairly handily multiple times over, and the adaptability that it has displayed in being able to, on the fly come up with moves in the game of Go, which is obviously a far cry from metacognition, but it shows that we really are sort of headed in the right direction. And then the deep learning neural networks are, becoming more and more commonplace, quote unquote. I mean, they're still rare, but streams of unqualified data are being analyzed in real time, not just batches, in real time, and they're being analyzed much like the human brain would. So we're really, I feel like we're on the edge of awareness or metacognition when it comes to AI and deep neural networks.
Okay, so here's a bizarre tie into it of a previous story, Breakthrough Starshot. We're talking about sending a bunch of these little buggers out into space. Imagine if part of what's going on with that is we have code on board, we build a neural net of these little guys that can talk to each other in space. I don't know exactly what that would get us, but my brain just went, huh.
Well, if nothing else, they could share information between themselves and say, oh, there's a point over here that might be interesting, or, what have you. And then there's...
Because in theory, they'll be closer to each other than they are back to Earth.
Right. And then it could even be, like a hive mind where it's a distributed cluster and they pool processing power or what have you as well.
And can learn about it. And if that's not the plot for a sci-fi novel, wow, someone write that now. I want to read that story. That would be awesome.
Super cool.
Well, Eric, we have a death watch. We're bringing Tidal, the music service Tidal, back up because... this has been on our Death Watch list for a while, and I'm guessing we're not wrong. This looks...
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of this is centered around Kanye West, and he put out an album, The Life of Pablo.
And Beyonce just put out a new album as well that was Tidal exclusive, and I don't think is anymore.
And, yeah, here's the whole thing, right? So the Life of Pablo got a lot of press in end of March and in April 2016, where... The only place you can get The Life of Pablo is on Tidal. If you're not a Tidal member, you'll never hear my amazing music. And then it shows up later on Spotify and Apple Music.
And the Pirate Bay.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were reminder threads cropping up on multiple forums that I was reading related to The Life of Pablo. Like, don't forget to cancel your Tidal trial before it expires. And here's the step-by-step guide for canceling Tidal because apparently it's a pain to cancel and all that. Tidal actually extended trials by an additional 30 days for people that
it's the only reason they signed up for Tidal was to hear Kanye's album. And now they can get it in other places. Yeah, some people are really upset about that.
So, Tidal continues to have, woes. The CFO and COO were recently terminated. They're on their third CEO in a calendar year. And then there's the fact that Kanye would release, his album exclusively on the streaming service to try to push people to use it. And then having Tidal back down or having the artists say, okay, sales really aren't that good, and we really need to release this on Apple Music and Spotify and all that. So, it doesn't look good overall. They claim the last number I saw was 3 million users, 1.3 million of those supposedly using the $20 a month subscription, the lossless, high fidelity streaming,
which sounds
music.
Like a business model on the surface, but I'm guessing they would need more scale than that to be able to pay the artists the amount of revenue that the whole thing was based on.
Feels like it to me.
We're going to make sure artists get their fair share, and
because only having hundreds of millions of dollars isn't. The smallest violin in the world is playing on my left hand. Right now.
I don't have Spotify subscriber numbers off the top of my head, but I'm sure it's a lot more.
It's well into the tens of millions,
if not hundreds of millions at this point. Yeah.
So they're not knocking Spotify off anytime soon. That's for sure.
Well, Eric, we learned some stuff today.
We did. What did you learn?
Well, I learned that kaiju is a Japanese word that means strange beast. And today you learned, dear listener, that I sort of liked Pacific Rim.
It's okay. I sort of did too. We went and saw that together, actually.
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
Oh,
geez.
that was a great film, to be honest. As long as you don't have high expectations for the plot and it's all about robots beating up kaiju, then yeah, that was a fabulous film.
So today I learned, and thereby you are learning, Ethan, that the writer of co-writer of Jurassic World and the director of Netflix's Daredevil season 1 are joining forces to bring us Pacific Rim 2. Squee! Just not until August 2017.
I can wait.
Yeah.
I can wait.
In the Hollywood Reporter article that I was reading this in, the author was saying, I don't really care about the story or anything like that. None of that's important as long as all the joy of a toddler playing in a sandbox, slamming his toys together and making mouth sounds is there.
Exactly. That is just perfect.
It's basically me playing Transformers when I was like 6. Yeah, that's what Pacific Rim is.
The plot needs to be just enough that robots and flesh monsters
have an excuse
are
to
smashing into each other in the ocean. Perfect. Yes. I will be happy about that. So one more thing I learned. On the Smithsonian Channel on Roku, I watched a David Attenborough special. It was called Micro Monsters, something like that. And from there, I learned that arthropods are from the phylum Arthropoda, and arthropods include a whole bunch of critters, including arachnids, insects, and crustaceans. Mm-hmm. Interesting to me because I didn't know a whole bunch of buggers that I think of are kind of unique and separate things are actually come under a common phylum.
And they share a lot of characters. You look at a lobster, and an insect, they're not actually that different.
Exoskeleton with segments made of chitin.
Yep.
They
open circulatory system.
Them sometimes.
Yep.
So that was just what. Thank you, David Attenborough.
That David Attenborough, he's all right.
He's all right. And with that, fellow citizens, our show comes to an end. We will see you again just as soon as our robot overlords permit.
Please send help.